Hi, I'm Yvette Ferra and Susan Hackett. We're here to help you navigate through the language learning website. As you know, many of our students come to us learning a second and third language, as you can see from the map, from around the world.
Many kids come from around the world, so it's a very big issue that we're all facing today.
And being in California, we have such a multicultural, multi-diverse setting with many students learning English as their second language.
So we hope this is helpful to you.
Hi, I'm Susan Hackett. Welcome to my third grade Spanish immersion classroom. I'm excited to share it with you. I'm going to start over here and show you what we use for our comprehension strategies. So anytime I have any strategy up that the kids are asked to use on a constant basis, the vocabulary is always up in the classroom along with the visuals that go along with it. In case they forget that vocabulary, they can come at any time and they can access it. So for example, prediciendo, predicting, it says exactly right here, there's a hand holding like a magic ball, you just tell the future. So making a prediction, visualizing while they're reading, and then relacionar, to relate something they already know with something else. So we have the chain here. And then there's even more explanation down here. Asking questions. So we have the question mark. Making inferences, and this even, because inferences can be a little complicated for third graders, so I have a little explanation with the visuals to go along with it. Synthesizing, getting clues from the book, being able to process what you're reading. And then, of course, if you understand what you're reading, you can make a nice summary at the end and explain to somebody else what you're reading. And it is so important for them actually to know the process, to model it for them. A strategy that we use in the classroom is called think alouds. So while I'm reading to the students, I'm thinking aloud my predictions or questions that I'm asking myself. So I give that model to them so that when they're reading independently, they can also do the think aloud on the Post-its. So they all have Post-its while they're reading, and here they are writing about what they read, and they're talking about the genre that the book is and how many stars they give it, what they learned, what they are asking themselves while they're reading, and then all the predictions that they're making while they're making those predictions. So this is up all year long, because this is something that in third grade is something they have to do for comprehension strategies. So always remember to use visuals as you can, especially for those who direct your attention to the library over here. So we have, since it is immersion, we have, of course, the English dictionaries. Let me pull one out for you. So just your basic dictionary, so that they start to feel empowered in their learning when they're learning new vocabulary in English or in Spanish. So whether you are teaching a class full of English learners who their native language is Spanish or Tagalog or Vietnamese, it's important to have a reference for them that they can use and access. So this is one that is Spanish to Spanish. So Diccionario de Primaria de la Lengua Española. So the students know, okay, if I'm looking at Spanish to Spanish, this is for me. And if I need to know, I know the word in English but not in Spanish, so we have Spanish-English dictionaries for them. That's very important. And then for my group of learners, of course, they have to learn verbs. So these reference materials are so valuable. You need to have it ready for them so that they say, how do I say that in the past tense? And they can go and they can look right here. So, and this is something they always have access to. So, all right. So there are many strategies that you're already using in your own classroom, I know, like the KWL chart, and that is what do the kids already know? So access their prior knowledge. And then what do they want to learn? And then what did they learn at the end? So this one I just have the what did we know and what did we learn. The what we want to know, they did on think alouds and they did it in Post-its. And we have it on a separate chart. So use the strategies that you know, and you can use it with your language learners. It's something very powerful. And then I keep it up until this thematic unit is over. And thematic teaching is probably the best way for kids who are trying to access a new language to really have a great construct of the concepts and the curriculum. So, for example, we're learning about government. So while we're learning about government, this is always up. So they can say, oh yeah, some of my classmates, they know that in government they make laws and that there's a president and a vice president. So this is something that is ongoing. And then going on to the next thing. So language learners it's really all of us. We're language learners, learning English, learning another language. So it's good to know who are your language learners. And if you happen to have a class that has a lot of Spanish-speaking students learning English, this may be some helpful, really quick, helpful tips for you. So the first thing is that oftentimes in Spanish, the S and C are not written together. So, for example, we have school, and the way it's said in Spanish is escuela. And you'll see here that there's a vowel in front of the S, and that's generally the way that it's written in Spanish. So a common mistake a lot of your English learners might make is they'll say eschool, estar. And so you really need to give them that explicit instruction that say, oh, I hear that E. We're going to take the E off. And in English, we just start with that S sound, so school. So that way, they understand that. So they're using but the good thing is they're using their language knowledge, what they know, to learn English. So the second point here is that in English and Spanish, there is a difference as far as the placement of the adjective and the noun. So that's why oftentimes you might hear students say the cat black. And it's the black cat, as we know, the adjective comes first before the noun, but in Spanish it's not that way. So that is why they make that mistake. El gato negro, here's the gato is the cat, it's a noun, and then here we have the color black afterward. So knowing that about your students, you can help teach them a little bit better. Say, oh yeah, I know that in Spanish it's opposite, but in English we put the adjective first and then the noun. That will really help them to give them that explicit instruction. And another one is that in English, he goes to school is said in Spanish, él va a la escuela. In Spanish, there's almost always an article in front of the noun. So if it's a gender, so masculine or feminine. There are some words that are unisex, but most are masculine or feminine. So that is why sometimes you'll have your native Spanish speakers who are learning English say, he goes to the school, and you'll hear them put in an extra transition word, an extra conjunction. So just know that about your students, and they're using their language that they know. And the last point is capitalization. In English, Monday, January 15th is capitalized as we know Monday and January, but in Spanish it's not. So lunes, here Monday is not capitalized, and enero, the month is not capitalized, and we have a lot of abbreviations in English that we also capitalize that in Spanish we don't capitalize. So just when you're working with your students, know that. So genres, they're always up as well because they need to access that vocabulary, and we do have so many genres. So everything comes with a picture. Again, leyenda, legend. Here we have the horse of Troy. So everything, fantasy has a dragon, and it says exactly in Spanish what every genre is. So it explains it, and it's always up for them. So anytime there's any question, they have some more to go. And this is actually very important for language learners. You have to really know your students, your group of students. Since we have majority here learning Spanish as their second language, we know that some things they want to translate from English, and it doesn't translate exactly from English to Spanish. So knowing that, we say, okay, we know that a common error, mistake that you might make, something like saying, I know, yo sabe. You say, this is one of those words that you don't say it this way, but you say it, yo sé. So we give them, these are the most common mistakes. And I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up all year long. And so the students know that they are responsible to learn this terminology. So this is a big one in 3rd grade that they are learning. So he terminado, I have finished, and to say it the correct way. So this is always there for them. And they know if they're not saying it the right way, I say, please go check the window and figure out how to say that. And then they come back and they tell me the right way. So here we Move on. This is some math vocabulary that's always up. And there's, of course, again, images to go along with all the vocabulary, like obtuse angles, obtuso, and it has an obtuse angle, and it says exactly that it's more than 90 degrees. And you can give them helpful tricks, like knowing about cognates. So cognates are words that are the same in English and in Spanish, and they have the same meaning, like color and color. It's pronounced differently. So let them know, even if you don't speak Spanish, it's okay. Let them know there are a lot of similar words in English and Spanish. Use your Spanish to learn some of these English words. And you should also know, though, I'm not going to say that without letting you know that there's false cognates as well. And of course, the most famous false cognate is embarrassed and embarazada. So those mean not the same thing at all. So embarrassed, of course you know the meaning of embarrassed, and then embarazada is to be pregnant. So let them know that sometimes, not very often, but sometimes there are false cognates, so it is not the right meaning. But majority of the time, cognates in English and Spanish are the same.